him.
Richard Peter Pan.
All
Goodness. All right. Uh, all right. Here we go.
It's made techies out of all of us.
Yeah, I have a whole procedure I have to undergo because I want people to see comments and I want
Yeah.
to get the video right and then it's actually pretty good. They're actually watching us now. The cool thing is it gives people a chance to come in.
Yeah.
But we have so much good things to talk about all the time. Just so many good things that happen around the world right now in the college. It's so fantastic. I think this is my second or third time going live today. I don't remember. I forgot.
Wow.
So it's good. Hello, everybody who's coming here. I'm here with Sister Sheristan Carey from the Shot Key Report. We're going to be talking about a good old-fashioned book burn. Sheristan, say hi to the folks.
Hey, everybody. You guys can follow me over at Shakti Yogi Journal. I think we all need to get off of this platform pretty soon. Yeah, how about them hearings where the owner of this platform basically said he'll do whatever the government wants him to do?
Yeah, it's funny, and I'm tagging you now. You guys can follow her, tag to follow Sheristan. It's funny, I look at that and I don't know what I believe anymore. There's so many,
Yeah, that looks like a big setup, like a big charade to me. I mean, how is he not already doing whatever the government wants? What kind of, I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me.
or perhaps telling the government what he wants. Like I live in this weird world where billionaires run everything, but I think I keep forgetting. And so when I was watching that, I was thinking of it like, well, wait a minute. How does it make sense that he's there, they're grilling him, but he's so confident and he didn't look like he doesn't care? And I was thinking, wait a minute. Don't the billionaires tell them what to do? And so this is why I stopped and I'm like, wait a minute. What if this whole thing is orchestrated and he's being told on television what he wanted to do to begin with, which is what the billionaires really want to happen, and they're just getting buy-in on all this censorship.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting hit from so many different angles
Yeah.
now. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the amount of people being purged and blocked on YouTube also has been insane. And now Twitter has started to do a lot of that stuff. It's just,
Right.
where we go.
Isn't Twitter the biggest violator though? Like when it comes to free speech, I'm barely understanding Twitter. I barely know how to go to. I've been going to tweeter.com and that's a different website. So and I'll type in tweet. I don't know Twitter too well, but isn't that said to be the most censoring platform right now?
I have no idea. I've never understood Twitter. I just have a Twitter page because I have a business, and when we started the Twitter page, and then we linked it so it would repost things when we posted elsewhere. So I don't really understand Twitter too much either. I mean, I'm a Gemini with a Virgo rising, so I tend to be wordy, and there was never enough words allotted for me to really get into Twitter.
Okay.
Some of you who've seen my posts know that it's either a truth bomb, really short and sweet, or it's like the long ass source with references and testimonies, proclamations. So, yeah, I never got into Twitter. I just kind of did it because everybody, I felt like business, you had to have a presence over there,
Right. Well, however you get the word out. Some people want it short and sweet. Some people want it long and drawn out. But let me check with everybody. I want to make sure you guys can hear us okay. Can everybody hear us okay? If you're just joining, I'm here with Sister Sharistan Carey. I think I posted something from her the other day. If you guys aren't familiar with her, she runs
Yeah.
the Shock T Report, and
Yeah.
we're talking about some good old censorship in good old California. Senate Bill 1424. I just wanted to see if we can get a thumbs up in the room or someone comment. Can you guys hear us okay?
And are both of us coming through okay? We have another little sound setup we can try if not.
Okay, Brother Shane gave us the it's all good.
All right.
All right, so we're ready to go.
This conversation by saying this is really, really important, no matter if you live in California or not. I think everyone should call and make a fuss about this because this is this is so obviously a rollout, a test, and it just can't be like it overrides federal law. So we'll get more into that, but yeah, it's really important because it's very obvious in our current structure that they just find any kind of way to manipulate things to specifically get rights grabs. And it's not that they're forcing the rights grabs down our throats. It's that's what the psyops are about. That's what the, George Soros and people like that funding money into organizations and marches and yada, yada. That's what that is about. Creating the people actually demanding the fascism and demanding the shutdown of a free and open society. And it's incredibly scary to watch. So that's why we're talking about this. It's very important if you're not in California. I just wanted to say that.
It is. And well, California sets the trend, right? It's what happens in California tends to spread throughout the nation. And if you can control people's voice, you can control how they think. You can control what they think. You can control what they do. It doesn't matter if they're intellectuals. It doesn't matter if they have PhDs up the wazoo. If you control their level of information, then you can do whatever you want. And so kind of my personal belief is that, America no longer runs, Washington. Washington pretty much does what it wants, and it does what it wants because it keeps people divided. People stay divided because they own the media. So Senate Bill 1424 is deemed internet. It's an internet censorship bill dealing with the civil code where they're telling social media and internet that they're going to have a strategic plan for doing fact checking. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what they're saying is every single website, every single social media page, every YouTube, perhaps possibly in every YouTube page, because YouTube is actually based in California, has to have the ability to do this fact checking.
Yes. I'll just read a little bit of the bill right here.
Okay, I can bring it up too if you want me to bring it up.
Existing law prohibits a person, among others, from making or dismantling any advertising device or in any manner or means whatever, including over the internet any statement concerning real or personal property or services that is untrue or misleading as specified. This bill would require any person who operates a social media as defined internet website with a physical presence in California to develop a strategic plan to verify news stories shared on its website. The bill would require the plan to include, among other things, a plan to mitigate the spread of false information through news stories, the utilization of fact checkers to verify news stories, providing outreach to social media users, and placing a warning on a news story containing false information, which they've already done all of this. I want to give a funny example of how these fact checkers don't work. This is a great example. So there was this article a few years back, radioactive salmon had shown up in Alaska. And the article was about that there was one and whatever, and, there was some speculation on why and yada, yada, right?
Right.
So Snopes says big letters when and they tagged this article after I found it. So then when you actually went back to search for it, it comes up first thing, Snopes false news, before the article. So I went and I was like, let me see what Snopes says, right? So they say it's a fake article because there was only one of these fish. And the article leads you to believe there will be more or might be more. So Snopes says the article is actually true. But guess what? Nobody goes and reads that. Nobody does. It's just Snopes says it's false, you know? And I was just cracking up like, wow, they really, I mean, they go out of their way not to ever lie to us. It's all like always right there in black and white or blue and red, you know? Right. But it was just funny. But that's why fact checkers don't work, you know? I mean, that's a really biased perspective. But even so, like, how can one source verify all science in the freaking world? It's absolutely absurd to think we could be any kind of valid if we tried to do that, because the science is always changing. It's always, you know, new studies are coming out, you know, and not to mention the science that our government condones, or, you know, they spend billions of dollars constructing the science. So eliminating people from the test results that won't give their science the numbers it needs to be the outcome they want. So that's not real science. And they disregard, you know, all these things where people actually put themselves out there as scientists to do this stuff, or as doctors, or as holistic healers. You know, another great example of why this is just so bad for our freedom of speech is like in Florida in summer of 2015, I believe, about 33 holistic doctors were murdered, and they were all treating autism and cancer in alternative ways, even though they were MDs. So, yeah, like stuff like that, you're not going to be able to report on that. No mainstream media reported on that. Those people did die, but you're not allowed to report on the fact that they died. It's just like that article that Claudia from Cabin Talk shared the other day, where, you know, it's like the girl drowned, you know, like these things just happen, this passive language of like, oh, well, that's these doctors died. They all died in the summer of 2015. You know, we're not allowed to say anything else. That's it. That's the story, the end, you know? And it's like, dude, that's the story that says there needs to be investigation, you know? Like,
right. And that's, you know, for me, you know, we always used to be a really wise group of people who always got a second opinion. Like for me, second opinions are everything. Anytime I hear one thing, or if a doctor says something, or a dentist, whoever, you always get a second opinion. You never trust it. If my friend on the right says something, I'll check it with a friend on the left. If a friend on the left says, I'll check it with a friend on the right. But you always want to know the truth. And so I do see it as a way of owning what is true and controlling us. But Brother Shane just said a comment in the room, which is spot on. He said it's just another way of eroding the First Amendment. They're basically shutting down on free speech, and they're telling you that if it's not true within their realm of what they consider to be true, then you can't say it. And if you say it, I mean, this is a civil code, so I imagine there's some sort of penalty, there'll be some sort of fine, or there possibly could be some sort of prison time. And so if I'm processing this correctly, this has to do with every person in the state of California that actually has a web presence, website, or social media. That's total domination of what they consider to be true. But so one thing about this, though, that I think people get confused in, is the whole fact checking part. Like, I like fact checking. Like, it's based on a great idea. All I do is fact check. But in order to fact check, you got to look at what the opposition says. And even when you fact check, later on down the road, you find out that your fact checking source was incorrect. Mm-hmm. So it is a great thing to do fact checking, and we should be doing that with everything everybody posts. But is it a place of government to dictate perhaps what facts are more fact than other facts?
Mm-hmm. And on that note, some facts are very cut and dry, but there's also perspectives of the same facts, and that's what we're dealing with in the divide and conquer. We basically have, certain people with certain facts and other people with other facts, and both of them saying like the other one is the one that doesn't know anything or the one that doesn't understand, and
Right.
so, and meanwhile, but if that doesn't continue, then nobody would want to vote for Democrat or Republican anyway, or even support anything they're, trying to do. We would want to completely revolutionize and change if we could only see that, because like you said, we're the serfs. They're making fools of us. They're using us and our passion and our genuine humanness against us, essentially. And it's
Right.
it's very angering when you understand and see it.
Right. And the example that you posted yesterday was fantastic. And so I don't know the gentleman's name, but he was basically talking about it from a vaccine perspective, right? He was talking about it from here's an example, in that, we all, most of us, maybe some of you didn't know, but I used to believe totally 100% in vaccines. Get as many as you can, give them to the babies, as much as possible. They cured polio.
I tried to get the HPV vaccine when I was 22. I wanted it. And this is something for you ladies out there, because they're not telling anybody this anymore. It was still in trial at that point, and they would not give it to me because I had had a cold sore ever in my life. And people are dropping dead and going paralyzed from that one. Well, they're not saying, hey, have you ever had a cold sore anymore? I bet you it has something to do with it. But I was just lucky, like completely lucky. I was like, please give it to me.
Yeah. Well, right. Well, and I bought in. I'll tell you, I used to work for the demons. I used to
We all do, no matter what your vocation, until we start consciously unplugging. Anyway, go ahead.
I used to work for the demons, and Maureen actually just posted in the room that they use a lot of these experimental vaccines on soldiers as well. And that was a true thing. A buddy of mine was in the Marines, and he said basically, they were I guess they were going in some building. It was some sort of training, and they give them the forms, and basically, you're peer pressured into signing the form, taking some experimental drug or vaccine, and going to do whatever training you're supposed to do. And so no one says no to it. But my concern with it is that, I totally believed in it because it was a fact, right? We were raised as kids, the polio, we blah, 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 blah. And I guess eventually someone started questioning and said, well, maybe we need to look at this from another view. What really happened with, the polio vaccinations? How many people did the first polio vaccinations kill? Which ones worked? Which ones didn't? And at the time that the final one was being rolled out, polio was on the decline anyway. And so, for me, it's not are you for vaccines or against vaccines? It's just a point, a reason of common sense that you want to hear both sides of the argument so you can make your own decision for your child or for yourself. And so I see this as a way, and so it was a good example, is that of what the gentleman said that you posted, and he said, well, look at New Jersey and look at Holly's Law, right? It was a famous documented case where it was hands down fact that the vaccines killed this little girl, right? The MMR. And everyone there knew that. There were a series of hearings where they went through it and they proved it. We have the vaccine injury fund where the pharmaceutical industry stepped back and said, hey, you guys, taxpayers, you're going to have to pay if you want us to keep making this, because if we get sued, we're going to go out of business because a lot of our vaccines don't work. Maybe some do, but a whole lot don't. And if you get sick, we're not going to pay for it. And so the government enacted the act to get the Vaccine Defense Fund so that people who are injured and it's obvious and you can prove it in their court that you'll get money for someone dying or getting sick. So we know that it's not a definitive. We know that it's not an open closed case that everybody should take as many as they should. We know that there are doctors and scientists who are questioning this. and it's important for people to hear their questions. But so the scary thing is now, anything that those other doctors and scientists are producing in second opinions or just even restraint, right? Restraint, not giving the MMR to infants ages 1 to 3, right? And that seems to be a lot of doctors are really on that front.
Or even a child that's already mildly vaccine damaged. They keep vaccinating them until they end up worse. Sorry, continue.
Right. Well, no, you jump in anytime you like. I'm processing. I don't have any of these thoughts well thought out. I'm processing and I'm looking what's happening in the room in terms of people's comments and what you're saying. But there are no definitives when it comes to reverse engineering systems that we really don't understand. And this is my personal stance on vaccines. I'm not for or against them. I am in the understanding that you have people who are professionals who are all for it and people who are professionals who are all against it. And so my jury is out. I'm not convinced.
And in between, too. Like the doctor here in Portland, there's a doctor that has an actual lowered vaccine schedule for parents specifically that don't want to do things like Hep B at birth, which makes no sense because unless the mother has Hep B, and then if that is true, that's a different situation anyway. But they can't get Hep B except from needles and sex, and it's a newborn, and they're not going to be protected when, the time comes for those things or whatever. It just felt weird because I said needles, and it's not really time for that. But you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think there are people that are in the middle ground. And I think we all should be in the middle ground, personally, because if you're not in the middle ground, that means that you're for taking someone else's rights away. And I'm not for that. I think if you want to vaccinate all out the wazoo, go for it. And I think also if you want to do different things with different kids, go for it. I don't know, like, why can't we have the research? Why can't we have all the research on the table? But that's the thing, is because there is this sinister plan. And because if we don't stop what's going on now, things are going to get much, much worse than any of us, could really imagine from our very weak history classes.
Right. And that's my belief also, is that we should be in the middle. You're right. We
and
all
just
should.
One more thing, that the guy he's speaking of is Del Bigtree, and he has a YouTube channel called Highwire with Del Bigtree. And Del Bigtree was also one of the makers of the documentary Vaxxed. So if you're interested in more information about all this, that's a good place to start. But it's not going to tell you if vaccines are good or bad. It's just going to show you some of the corruption and the research that was being suppressed, and people who are trying to come out with that. So, little aside, I just wanted to say Del Bigtree, because he's doing phenomenal work.
Yeah, and that's interesting. You mentioned Vax, and this is where I send people to Vax. Anytime they want to talk about vaccines, I don't talk about vaccines with them first. I say, okay, so you're on, extreme one side or the other. You've done your research on that side, but have you done your research on the other side? And so I like to always send them to Vax. But if I lived in California and I wanted to post Vax on my Facebook page, I might have an issue. Right? I might have an issue with the government because I did that. And
this is going to be major. Do you know how many holistic herbalism businesses there are in California?
Yep.
Do you know how many tinctures? Like business owners, you're not going to be able to say, this helps your liver, this helps your kidneys. That would be fake news. You can't help your liver or kidneys unless you go get dialysis or blah, blah, whatever. You can't have, there's no such thing as, yoga that heals people. It's exercise. Yeah. It's just, it's incredible how this is going to affect people's businesses. Like, you're not going to be able to post these feel good, get well, be healthy, be vital, organic food is the only way to live, it's not going to be allowed.
Right, and it's enough to scare people. Being an act in the civil code. I mean, I imagine there'll be a fine or penalty. I don't see anywhere in the bill where they're talking about what the fine or penalty will be, but it goes to exhaustive lengths to, I think, to convince people that they own social media, that they have the right to tell you what you can and you can't say, or they'll slap you with a fine. And
well, yeah, there's even more to it than that. And the bill is called the False Information Strategic Plans. But yeah, like they actually defined social media in this bill, and they said, as used in this section, social media means an electronic service or account, every application you have, or electronic content, including but not limited to videos, still photographs, so blogs, video blogs, podcasts, instant and text messages, email, online services and accounts, internet website profiles, and locations. So in other words, people, when you're texting with your holistic friend about, all these cures for things, you're going to get a call from the Google Gestapo, and they're going to be like, yeah, we need to educate you. You're not allowed to say this and that, and there's no proof for this, so you can't go around spreading false information. I'm sure they wouldn't attack people's text message and instant message at first, but the fact that that's in here and defined, and they put in quotes, this section, social media means, and listed out all those things, it's a little more than social media.
Right. Well, that's huge. I mean, what that basically means. I love memes. I love the kids. They came up with these meme things, and I love them because they're funny.
I posted yesterday with that guy, that dude who's all big on the guns, running through the Syria, saving children from the gas. Did you see that one?
I'm on there now.
That would be totally illegal.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the one
that kid, David Hodge, right?
Yeah, the one.
Hodge. And he's running through Syria, and the slogan is, and then there was that time I was saving kids in Syria from the gas.
I'm gonna go get it. I saw that. I think I thought that one came from Tatsu.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. It did. That's where I got it. I reposted it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But stuff like that is exactly, you're not going to be able to make jokes, people. Like, you can't make jokes because it's not true. And the stuff that you're allowed to say is true isn't true. Do you know how insane? Like, I'm so out of here. I'm like, I love truth. It's my favorite chakra. I love to write. I love music. I like the arts. Oh my God. How much of our art's been suffering from this stuff? How much do our movies completely suck? Luckily, they're smart enough that they know people like me and my dad have completely boycotted movie theaters, and that used to be like our thing. We would go to the movies together when I was little, and so they know that they've got all our information in here. So they brought back one of our favorite movies, The Dark Crystal, and it was in the theater, and it was really cool to see that movie in like HD with the sound and everything, and yeah. So I did see one movie this year, but I'm still holding strong on my Hollywood boycott. I don't think that one counts. Rest in peace, Jim Henson. I think Jim Henson was definitely co-opted, but I think he had a good heart. I think he definitely wanted to like tell the truth through his art and stuff.
So now it's interesting now to me, because now we're in a really, and I love The Dark Crystal, but you're showing your age, but we're in a dangerous land now.
Baby.
we are, because now you're talking about comedians, right? You're talking about their websites. You're talking about Hollywood. I mean, you're talking about shutting down on the people who live there, who actually make fun of a lot of this stuff. Like, one of my beliefs too is that comedians, They ruined everything for us. There was a time where comedians never let us take ourselves too serious. Growing up, you couldn't take your race serious. You couldn't take your religion serious. You couldn't take any of your clothes, anything that you took serious, the comedians came for you. You couldn't take your politicians serious. One thing was, and the beautiful thing, it kept us all laughing. We all laughed at everybody and everything, and we bonded in that humor. But the idea now that they actually have the ability to shut down on comedians because it's video, it's images, everything, right? Like you said, it's not just so.
Already have. There's a semi-famous comedian from. Well, I don't think he's from there, but he was in LA and semi-famous for a while. But he's living with his wife and kids in the hills and chickens and stuff now, and just started a YouTube channel. But Owen Benjamin was a pretty famous comedian. He was like on TV and all that stuff, you know, in the circuit and Comedy Central or whatever. And he's a conservative-ish, I would say like libertarian, maybe, I don't know, but he's definitely not for the globalization agenda. And so he was talking a lot about, you know, kind of George Carlin style, like what's going on now. And he was actually bringing up this race stuff. Is he's like, I don't know, he's like been around a lot of different races and kind of grew his comedy on exactly what you're talking about. And like, you know, like in front of people who weren't white, and they're like laughing hysterically, you know. And because of like this whole climate, like he discusses a lot how he's seen this big change where like everybody's afraid to laugh, you know, like oh, is that okay, you know, and all this, and but he's still touring and everything, which is great. He's kind of like gone rogue and doing his own solo thing, but it's already happened, you know, and happening. And yeah, they're definitely silencing anyone who would, you know, and that's why people are so confused and stupid, and because everything they turn on the TV is telling them everything's okay, and it's all about the Kardashians and money and, you know, college, even though half our jobs are going to be gone in 10 years.
It's okay. You know, just keep smiling, keep laughing, keep paying your taxes, keep going to work, keep fighting the other side, keep fighting Trump, keep, you know, begging, you know, pretending Trump is Jesus Christ come again, you know, and people are so gaslit in this massive side. You know, I gotta tell you a little story. Bothered me. So, you know, like I said, growing up as a kid, you had to have thick skin. And I went to go see. I am a retro movie guy. I love my old movies. And there was a movie called Blazing Saddles. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Blazing Saddles, but it was one of my favorites. We used to laugh all the time because we never took ourselves too seriously. It was great to go sit down with your friends of just all different backgrounds and laugh at stuff like this. And I went to go see the movie. If you're a young person, you haven't seen Blazing Saddles, there are a lot of racial jokes in it. Cross the board, nails everybody, but it's one of the funniest movies your teachers will never show you because they'll get fired. But anyway, so I went to the theater. It was retro night. And the great thing about retro night is you go there and everybody is along the same ages of when the movie came out. Right? So the crowd was pretty much late 30s, mid 50s. And these are all people who never grew up at a time where you had to be gotta think of the right word. Take yourself so seriously and not laugh at yourself. And so I went and I sat down in the crowd and like, okay, these are my people, right? No one in the crowd had my skin color. But these are my people because we grew up together, right? These are all the people, the right age group, right? I don't care about the race thing. These are my people. We're all going to have a good time. We're going to laugh. There are no kids here. No one taking themselves too seriously. And of course, the first 10 minutes into the movie, nobody was laughing. And it took me a little while to think about it. But I realized that because I was the only black person in the movie theater, nobody was laughing. And so it did two things into me. Two things came to mind. One, I was overjoyed that people cared enough that they would try to show me respect because maybe they don't realize all the jokes I made as a kid against everybody, mine, and I laugh at hell at all of them. All the stereotypes, I laugh because they're funny.
Me too.
And then the second feeling I had is I was really bothered by where this country is going. I was really bothered that they're not having a good time because they think I'm a person who takes myself too seriously, or takes my ethnicity too seriously, some of my ethnicity. And so, of course, this was a thing where Mongo, was it? I think it was Mongo. No, it wasn't Mongo. It was before Mongo. He was riding into the city, and this is when the drunk guy was telling everybody who he was. He said, the sheriff is a blank. And so this was my opportunity. I needed them to know that I am not somebody whose butt cheeks are just tightened up with cheddar cheese, right? I needed them to know I'm a real person. I'm not a fantasy person. So I busted out laughing. I was just like, it was the fakest laugh, but I was laughing hard as I could. Everybody started laughing. And at that point, we could go back to being what we were when we were kids, and we could enjoy the movie. And so I think that's my biggest fear, is that this law is going to be the beginning of other laws that come into effect in state after state after state after state, in shutting down the ability for people to make fun of politicians, to make fun of news that's obviously fake, that like Syria. You know what, with Syria, my position is that either it didn't happen, or it didn't happen the way they say it happened, or wasn't who they said it was, because they've already taken an action, they haven't solved anything. But after this law passes, if you have no way of contacting anyone in Syria and doing some fact checking, have your plan together, whatever, you can't post it on your page.
Even if you did, even if you had that, yeah, this is a great example. California, guess what? Eva Bartlett, is it Eva or Ava? Eva Bartlett, who has been over to Syria and been one of the major journalists blowing the whistle. Tulsi Gabbard used to, but she was quite obviously silenced, and now all she speaks about is the spirit of aloha. But that's just a little aside.
Exactly.
That's what happens when you get silenced. But Eva has not been silent, and she's speaking out more now than ever, and only on independent channels. And in a place like California, if you even share her testimony, that's going to be false news. Like, because it doesn't go through the fact checker. That's not what's happening in Syria. So that girl is fake news. That journalist is fake news. Like, you're not even able to agree with her, like, or share some other media source, which is a person who has been to Syria. Like, you know?
Right. And that's a scary time we get into, because, you know, someone posted a quote, and I forgot who said this. Somebody can say who, but basically something to the effect of, when you take the citizen's voice, their only response is to use violence, right? Something to that effect. I know one of my friends knows the quote. They'll post it in the room. But when you take the citizen's voice, their only recourse is violence. And I look at that as what happens around the world. You know, why? What is a terrorist? A terrorist is someone whose voice was taken. A terrorist is someone who lived in a country. We got there. We shut down their power, their infrastructure, the Wi-Fi. They have no ability to contact people, and they have no other recourse. They can't debate. They can't negotiate with drones. They can't talk to us. So their only recourse is to fight. And 9/11, if you really think about it, 9/11 was the side effect of taking a people's voice. And it was those people trying to talk to us to let us know, which is why they went after the World Trade Center, that these banks in Wall Street are invading their nation, raping their kids, killing everybody there, and stealing the oil. And we didn't listen to that message. And so now they're doing to us what they're doing to them. They're silencing them. And it's a very scary time you get into when you abuse a population and you no longer allow them to say what they need to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're really just not allowed to do anything. I mean, this is how you close down a free and open society. You know, we're not allowed to question anything. We're not allowed to go research anything that's not just like dictated. So, eventually we'll have to have just like one newspaper, one world newspaper and one world TV show, pick your language. Pick your diverse, pick somebody that looks like you to tell you the news. Like, pick your, what's it called? Not diversity. Pick your race. Is that what when you check on the little thing on the card?
Yeah, to pick your ethnicity or your race, background, whatever they call it.
Yeah, it's going to be like virtual pick your ethnicity, and like somebody comes on and tells you the same thing. You all get told the same thing. Whoa.
Well, for me, it's always fun. I always pick either Chinese or Asian. I always go for that. Every now and then I'll pick something different, Hispanic, and I'll just look at the guy and they'll look at me and they'll question. The funny thing is they really can't, they can't say that you can't select that, right? You can have 0.02% DNA from a continent and you can say anything you want. I never answer that question correctly. I think, well, that's not true. I think on some government documents, you'll get in trouble for it. But half the time, it's not your business. It's stupid that you're even asking me that. And to me, it's like a consent thing. They always want to walk us into these boxes and labels. And I have no interest in any box or label that they want to put me in. But this is back to 1933. This is a good old-fashioned book burning where they're determining what is true, and you have no options in even debating it. You can go out perhaps and read something true on a website from a state that's not California, but if you save it on your hard drive, you've broken the law. If you post it on your page, you've broken the law. If you text it to your friend, you've broken the law. And it's insanity that CNN, Fox News, MSNBC will actually be able to dictate to the state of California what happened in Syria.
And it's the thought police, because they even said in this little bill written out here, they say providing outreach to social media users. So, that is the thought police. Like, you think the wrong thing. You are wrong about the facts, and we're going to come and brainwash you. It's like, it's so crazy to think about all the movies that were told that basically we've been also I guess conditioned into things like, I'm always astonished how happy people are that Elon Musk is firing rockets and satellites into space. I'm like, do you know how much money that costs? Do you know what's going on in the world right now?
Right.
Like, who the fuck? Why would you be happy about that? Like, there are so many bigger fish to fry, and it's incredible, like, that people are excited over that, as if that is something that helps us all, and just how out of whack our sense of reality and our priorities and value is like a really big problem.
Right. So one thing I do want to go back to, and so in the bill, it talks about false information, the strategic plan that you actually have to have if you want to post something from Ron Paul on your Facebook or your YouTube, something ridiculous like that. It says you need a strategic plan shall include, but is not limited to, the following: a plan to mitigate the spread of false information through news stories, the utilization of fact checkers to verify news stories, providing outreach to social media users regarding news stories containing false information, placing a warning on news stories containing false information. Nobody's going to do that. No one. And so this is a total shutdown, and it basically removes California from the ability to have critical thought. That's how I view it.
And if something like this goes through, I would imagine that it would just be a very short matter of time before California would just be kind of like China and Russia, where they would only be able to see certain websites. And we would literally be living in. It's so funny because California's all like, we want to secede, we want to secede. I'm like, ha, good luck with that, guys. That may be something you actually don't want. Right. Staying part of this country may be like saving your asses. I think California thinks it's a little more enlightened than it actually is. Like, well, like you guys are the ones that are like leading the way and like turning over power, letting the powers just like run everything and tell us to conserve water. Meanwhile, on the San Andreas fault line in California, they're fracking with 40 million gallons of water a day, and there's not enough water for the farmers out in the farms. And nobody in California is getting up in arms in that. They have notes up in the bathrooms saying, conserve water, don't use too much. I mean, that is fascism. When the government is taking all the water to export your resources and telling you don't have enough water to drink or bathe, I mean, we gotta wake up.
That's another great example. I mean, just talking about fracking, there's still people who, just like the vaccine debate, they honestly believe that fracking is safe and healthy and good for the environment, right? And now, I could see where you're not going to be able to post anything about fracking, right?
Yeah, well,
the logical,
even if it was safe and healthy, for those of you in California that think it's safe and healthy, it is wrong for big government to have access to as much water as it needs and screw over the farmers and the citizens while they're making billions off of exporting that oil, not giving it to the citizens to use. And if you Californians can't understand that, then good riddance. I mean, I don't know. It has nothing to do with whether fracking is good or bad for you. This is a fascist dictatorship move, period.
I mean, there's so many ways. I like the way you worded that because it highlights what this is. It's always about Wall Street. It's always about profit. It's always about your government wants to sell you, your kids, your rights, your land, your food, your water, and they don't want you to have any say in it at all. It's not a left or right issue. It is a logical, common sense issue. And if you can't grasp the idea that corporations should not run our world, that corporations should not have the ability to tell you what's true and false, that your politicians don't have the right to take anything they want without asking, then you're right. The human race, we probably need to go the way of the dinosaur. We're not smart enough to keep going.
No.
For me, and
gotta protect your own, like you can't just, this is the mentality we've gotten into, is like so reliant. And that's why I love you and Claudia and Debbie and from the same progressive, because I just totally am on the same page where I think it's about getting more and more self-reliant, unplugging from needing any of that. I just planted a bunch of seeds in my garden and going to keep planting. Can never plant too much, but that type of stuff is so important. But meanwhile, we do also have to flood the phone lines of this Dr. Richard Pan. Apparently, he's a doctor. I don't know of what. And maybe that could be why he is very pro-vaccine. So Dr. Richard Pan, we should all give him a call. His district office number is 916-262-2904, and his capital office number is also, if you want to add this too, or whatever you want to say, I'm just giving ideas. But it also, these are other things to think about. It also stops innovation. There is no such thing as innovation unless you are saying, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this. This is the real control and problem that has usurped our government for the last 100 years or more. And, you know, is why we only have oil cars as an option, you know, and things like that. When originally there were 4 engines made, only one used gas. One used vegetable oil, there was an electric, and there was also a steam engine. And so that got monopolized. If we had a free and open market, we would have been revolutionizing the car industry. We would have been, I mean, screw Tesla. Tesla's just an electric car. That shit was invented 100 years ago. That is not a Tesla engine. And Elon Musk is not a genius. He's a Mark Zuckerberg, and he's a front man, and he's pretty, and that's it. It's all a facade. He's not Tesla. Like, he's not. He just has a lot of money and can, like, make rockets go off into space. If he was Tesla, trust me, he wouldn't be on TV, guys. I mean, that's the point where we need to wake up. If he was Tesla, he'd be dead. You know, like, my British aunt used to say, who was a physicist and like worked on a team of scientists using a coil to actually heal bone injury and breaks and stuff like that. Anyhow, she would always say, quietly, quietly, go catch a monkey. And as a kid, I was always like, quietly, quietly, go catch a monkey. I thought it was cute, but as I get older, I'm like, oh my God. And she was like in with this stuff. And when she was the only woman, you know, and had such grace. But now that I know what she was working on, I know, like, she had to be, you know, walking on eggshells and kind of dancing the dance, you know, because she was working on healing bones without, you know, any kind of radiation or anything like that, with just a basically coil, like kind of like Tesla. I think she was working with kind of coil stuff. But anywho, point being, that's what we all need to do, is like you were saying earlier, kind of do this dance, and you got to shuffle back and forth, and you got to say what you can, and then you got to be silent when, you know, when you have to be silent, and find another platform or avenue or a new way. You know, we have to keep kind of reinventing and not getting reliant on anything, because, like you said, they own these, and it's just as long as, you know, we're allowed to, you know, do what we're doing. So we really just need to get more like self-reliant and community building game plans in action, I think.
Yeah, well, people who are dependent on their government, they demand nothing of their government. You know, if you need your government for your food and your water and your medicine and all those things, it sounds rough, but you're weak. And that's what it comes down to. If you need them, you can't oppose them. And they know that. You know, we can try things where, you know, you try to pull the other side and let's find common ground. And these are good things to do. But you got to have a plan B, right? Plan A is let's find common ground and let's put some common sense back in government. Plan B, we're going to have to walk away from government, right? If they don't actually listen to that, if the voting system actually doesn't work, which is what the vast majority of people are saying, it means that we have to be able to walk away and say, we're done with you. We don't want to have anything to do with you. You don't represent us anymore, and we don't need you.
Well, we can't actually say that the voting system doesn't work because we've always just played ball with them. If all Americans did not vote for the 2 warmongers that they prop up for us, in Debbie's words, and you know, we've never unplugged completely and said none of us are voting for that. I think that we do have some potential voting, but we would have to just all be like, no Republican, no Democrat, no war machine, no vote for anything else, you know, like, let's get a real race going, you know, like, let's get some hope going, like, but, you know, like, I don't see any other way as far as, like, I don't think that we're going to be able to make the elections safe. It would have to be some kind of actual people uprising coup where it was undeniable, and even then it's like we got to start at the local level, because there's nothing, JFK was killed when he tried to back our dollar on silver, after the Federal Reserve took it off of gold, and for those of you, just a quick aside here, but I know a lot of people know this, but Syria and the other countries we've been attacking nothing, and we're incurring so much debt. Land was given, resources were given. China owns our water over here, and I guess our oil and stuff too. I don't know, but there's no fracking in Oregon, which I'm really happy about, and that's one reason I moved here.
Oregon's one of the holdout states. I think it was like Oregon and Vermont and maybe to some degree Texas, but we definitely have a few holdouts, but the holdouts aren't going to be able to hold out really long. Like it's like, it's like cancer. You can't really let it get set in. You can't let censorship get rooted in. And how that happens, I know early on in the broadcast, people were talking about the left, right? And that this was a left fascist type thing. And while that all may be true, I'm not sure that's the right thing we need to be saying. Like, I think that they get the cancer to set in because they convince you that this is your team and you should go for this, right? And if they can't convince you that it's your team or it's against your team, you don't stand for it. Like, you have to process that eventually when your side's not in favor, the other side's going to use it against you. Right? It may be that California is a left state. What's going to happen when it's a right state? What's going to happen when they take over a right state? I'm in Pennsylvania. I think I might be a right state right now. I don't know. But so in California, they can lock in left information. Pennsylvania might lock in right information. But so imagine state after state after state after state doing that with their own little truth ministries. And then we get to a point where we truly, the country's in a deadlock. And at that point, there really is no way to fix what's wrong with our nation without some really horrible things. And to me, that's what it is for me. To me, I don't think it's too late. I think we can pull our country back. We just can't. We have to stop these cancers from setting in. We got to go back to the default Constitution, Bill of Rights, leave everybody alone, let everybody talk, let there be dissent, let there be opposition, fight, discuss with someone your disagreements on politics, then go have a cup of coffee. Bring down the anger, start up the dialogue, go back to acting like adults. And I think we can get past all of these childish attempts or the very successful attempts Wall Street does to buy legislation through us acting like children instead of having discussions and dialogue like adults.
It is definitely very tricky. They've done a great job of making every aspect of our lives like a minefield.
Right.
And it's like even just everyday talk with neighbors. I can't think of a good example right now, but sometimes, something will just come up and it just, makes that awkward kind of resonance. I'll see if I can think of a specific example, but yeah, they've just done a good job of really making all these triggers and all these weird things where I'm not even trying to talk about politics sometimes, and like something comes out and it's like, oh, and I realize the person made an assumption about me because of something I said, which, usually wasn't even a true assumption. It's like one of those trigger things in the media that says this equals this, but it's like, I'm not that, but I did say that.
to me, I let it go. I really don't care. People say stuff about me all the time, and it depending on who it is. If it's someone,
I'm just empathizing with anyone out there that feels like it's, hard right now. I feel like they've done just a really good job of just flooding us with just all these really, really amped emotional,
yeah,
things.
identity triggers, and I don't, to me, when someone calls me something, they say something, depends on who it is. If the person's capable of critical thought, I'll walk them through, what I'm thinking and how my mind got to that place. If that there's somebody that's gaslit and they believe MSNBC, CNN, and Fox and all the rest of them, I just say, okay, yep, I love Trump. Yep, sure do. I'm a Nazi. Yep, I absolutely am. Hi ho Hitler. Is it hi ho Hitler? I think that's what it is. I'm a Russian bot. Yeah, I'm a Russian bot. Absolutely, comrade. I don't have time for people who are really lost and they're not capable
Totally.
of having a second opinion. But I'll do this. Those are my thoughts on it. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having
The
me.
last word.
Everyone for being here and listening to this. I think it's really important, and I hope everybody will go make calls first thing Monday morning and just flood Dr. Richard Pan's office.
It's important, and somebody already said that, well, I live in Canada. Can I call?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Positively.
Canadian.
Call.
Yes.
And if you have friends in California, call them. If you have friends in California, share on their page. I posted the link in the comments. Take the link, post it on their page. See what they think about it, right? Because it can't be a few people talking about this. The vast majority have to start to talk about it. You have to show California, what is California going to be like if you don't have the ability to actually post on social media or YouTube what you want. The other thing I'll say that last thing I'm going to say, then I'll let you have the last word there, is that they can utilize these things to drive a conversation, right? They can just put the bill in place and they don't need to have the resources to shut down on it.
Yep.
Then they can be selective about who they shut down on, right? And that's how this works. They can be very selective in quelling and silencing certain groups. And this is where the brother said initially on, is that this is where the assault on the First Amendment comes. This first understanding and belief that they actually have the constitutional right to write a bill like this. Last words from you, Sister Sharistan Carey from the report.
You just took the last words out of my mouth, because I was going to say exactly that. This doesn't mean that, if the bill were passed, that all of a sudden, everybody would be shut down for saying anything that doesn't align. It wouldn't work like that. Just like every rights grab that has happened, it's a very slow, it's like they put the thing in place, then let everybody calm down, then they start plucking a few off, and it's so important now, because this action unifies us, because we have to all stand up together for each other, or else it doesn't work. And that's really the name of the game as a country, as a people, as, I feel we are very responsible also for the rest of the world, just because of how much our crazy ass government has inflicted itself upon the rest of the world. So, with all that, I feel like this is just, stuff like this is just a great way, stand up together, and it doesn't mean that necessarily we'll do anything more than create, awareness and people saying, hey, this is not okay. And that, I think, is a big thing. It's where we start, and I think everything else. Reviews, environmental news, all sorts of stuff. We have a search bar, so you can, search topics if you want, but that's theshaktijournal.com. And we'll probably be moving our website to Belgium for 2019, or a country with free speech, so that they can't actually mess with the whole website, So that's another thing people in California you might want to think about if you have a holistic business, etc. And you might want to just get another web address that is in a country that wouldn't outlaw that, and that way you have it backed up, and if they delete the one here, you have that one up. So something to think about.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You have a great day. Thanks, you guys, for